Hey, 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 it's Wednesday, which means it's time for a AAA session, Ask Alyssa Anything, where I'm responding to questions in the comments about the publishing industry and how to write a better book. My dog Luca is there behind me, and we have some great questions on deck today. As always, thank you so much to everyone who has submitted. I'm sorry I can't get to all the questions that I want to, but I know a lot of you are enjoying these sessions, so I will keep doing them as long as you still have questions for me. Let's get the housekeeping out of the way. I know you've heard me say it time and time again, but please go ahead and hit that thumbs up button before you forget. It helps my channel and these videos reach more viewers. And hit that subscribe button if you haven't joined this amazing community of writers already. If you have a current work in progress, go ahead and download my free story self-assessment resource in the description below. It is a fun, easy, simple quiz designed to help you see your story in a new way, illuminate areas that may be weaker in your current draft that you can then strengthen on the next iteration. That's also going to sign you up for my newsletter. And let me tell you, the agents and authors who I am featuring are giving some amazing insights. I'm loving seeing all the growth on the newsletter, so definitely check it out. And the link to go straight to the newsletter is in the description as well. Let's dive into the first question today. So I've taken a long break from writing my story, several months of break. I was about 50,000 words in, and now reading back through my rough draft, I'm not sure where to begin. I have ideas for story-wide revisions, but I also need to finish writing this thing. Do you have any suggestions on how to move forward? So what do you do if you find yourself in the situation of having a partial manuscript, but then you are rethinking a lot of the story elements that would affect all of the words that you've already put down on the page? Do you just keep going from where you ended things off? Do you start over? Do you revise what you already have? Admittedly, the right approach for you is going to depend on your own style and your own creative process. If to you it makes the most sense to just finish the story as you intended and then go back and do the major revisions that you have in the back of your mind, that's definitely an approach you can take. Just be aware that you do have these hefty revisions on the horizon, and don't shy away from them when the time comes to address them. The way that I might encourage you to go, and the way that might be more efficient, is actually beginning some of that revision work now, especially since it seems that you have an idea of where you want the story to go and how you want it to look different. That doesn't mean rewriting the whole thing or throwing out everything that you've already written in your 50,000 word draft. Not the case at all. What I would do is go back through your 50,000 word draft again and potentially start incorporating those revisions and those different elements you want to add. Maybe you're trying to add a new character's perspective. Maybe you're adding a subplot and you need to weave that through those 50,000 words before moving on to the rest of the story. I do think this is the more strategic and the more efficient approach, because that way you're going to get some of that developmental work out of the way from the beginning, and also you're going to create stronger continuity when you continue the story into the rest of the draft, right? Because you will have already put in that new backstory, put in that new perspective or that new subplot, and you can carry it through as you go on to write the rest and finish the draft. However, if that sounds like way too much work to do right now, and you just frankly don't even want to look at that 50,000 word partial manuscript right now again, put it aside, finish the draft. Do that first, and go with the first method of revisiting it and revising later. Ultimately, the right choice will be whichever one feels the most approachable and feels the most doable to you, because I also want you to get this draft finished. Here's the next question. I'm curious about when novels are broken into parts, not the 3-act structure, but when there is actually a dividing page somewhere in the middle of the story before the main story arc has concluded that often says something like part 2. When is the most appropriate time to use this tool, and what are the potential benefits versus cons? From what I've been able to find, it seems to be a very stylistic choice. I reserve the part break for if there is some kind of major shift in your narrative. This isn't the same as a chapter break or a line break, where you're simply cutting the scene or pausing the scene and then continuing on the action. This is a moment where there is a fundamental shift in the narrative. That's when I think a part break is warranted. So what could this be? This could be a shift in POV, If you are introducing another character's perspective, a decent way through the novel, maybe halfway through, I don't recommend doing that, but there are a few cases where it can work. Or more likely, this could be if you are shifting ahead in time, which again can be difficult to execute effectively, but we see it happen. Then it would make sense to create a part break, because now the reader is understanding, okay, we're taking this break and I'm now entering another section of narrative that is going to be different from what I have just experienced. So think about if there is a big shift in your novel at some point, in which case the part header can set the reader's expectations. They'll say, okay, I'm taking a break, this is not a chapter break, and I'm entering a part of the story that is going to feel different than the part I was already in. That's when I think part breaks work the most effectively. If you don't have, by the way, a major shift in your narrative like that is totally fine. That doesn't mean there's anything wrong with your story. It just means it doesn't need a break like that, and I would not recommend putting one in just for the sake of it. There are plenty of stories that have no part breaks, that are just chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3, and they are absolutely perfect that way. Here's another question. I would love to find a literary agent who isn't just a great business person, but also someone who understands storytelling and can give me some editing/revising direction. Is that too much to ask for? My answer is absolutely not. It is not too much to ask for. In fact, the best literary agents are, yes, business people. They're ultimately a combination of recruiter, talent scout, and salesperson. That is ultimately what their job is. But they are also very invested in storytelling and craft. And most agents, certainly the agents that I worked with when I were in the industry, are editorially focused. That means when they sign you on and you are going to enter in a working relationship, the first thing you're going to do with that agent is work through revisions with your manuscript. They're going to come to the table with ideas of how to strengthen your book to then put it in the best position to appeal to publishers. So many agents, especially many high profile and very successful agents, do act as a developmental editor in that way. That doesn't mean you're not gonna do more revisions with the editor at the publishing house. It doesn't mean you're not gonna do revisions before you even get an agent. You're gonna do revisions the entire way through. So the sooner you can accept that, the better. But a great agent is a creative person, is someone who understands the craft of storytelling, and they should absolutely be able to bring that expertise to you via the form of notes on your story. Now, it is a sliding scale, so some agents might be more editorially minded than others, and if it is very important to you to have an agent who is editorial focused, I would recommend having that conversation with them when you hop on the phone to discuss representation. This is typically the first step an agent will take before offering representation. They'll say, let's chat on the phone. And during that conversation, you should absolutely ask them, how editorially focused are you? Do you foresee us going through rounds of revision on my book? I am looking for an agent who provides that storytelling expertise and guidance. And you can gauge at that point if they prefer to really not engage as much with the editing side of things and only work on the business side of selling your book rights, or if they actually are quite engaged with the editorial process, as well as obviously the business side of publishing the book. I think you will find most agents actually fall into the latter category that you're looking for. Thank you so much to everyone who submitted a question today, and if you have something you'd like to ask me, drop it in the comments here and it will be added to my queue. Looking forward to seeing what's on your mind. Don't forget to hit that thumbs up button before you head out, hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, and head down into the description to grab my free story self-assessment worksheet and check out my newsletter link. Thanks so much for watching and happy writing.